Coming up today on Locked On Hornets, who will perform better and who will perform worse on the Charlotte Hornets this upcoming season? We are mere hours away from preseason action for the Charlotte Hornets, and I've got some serious questions that I want answered before the season starts, and we'll have a full game preview against the Oklahoma City Thunder coming up today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Hornets. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for listening. We've got a lot to get to as we approach the first preseason game on Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern tip-off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. This game not taking place in Charlotte. I'll tell you why coming up, because we will preview the game later in the show. I say we, but I really mean me, because I'm Doug Branson, and I write for every Hornets box score. I also help produce the Yahoo Sports Daily Show on Yahoo Sports. I'm typically joined by Walker Mail, who is on WFNZ in Charlotte, the Wes and Walker Show, 12 to 3. He has the day off, really the weekend off. I'm doing a weekend edition here in anticipation of the preseason game. So I got a few topics I want to get into. Who will perform better and who will perform worse than they did last season? And then what questions I want answered during this preseason campaign. So let's start off with who will perform better and who will perform worse this upcoming season. I really struggle to oversell how much room for improvement there is with the Charlotte Hornets. And you may say to yourself, well, duh. Nice job, Captain Obvious. They won 19 games, and on a 19-win team, of course, there's going to be plenty of room for improvement up and down the roster. But I think even on bad teams in the NBA, even rock-bottom teams, there are a few little diamonds in the rough that you can look at and say, well, all right, like that's, bad season, tough season for a lot of different reasons, but we have something to build on. And I think the Hornets certainly, they have star potential on which to build upon, but all of those stars struggled, particularly when it came to the offensive end of the floor and being efficient at the offensive end of the floor last season. And obviously they struggled defensively as well. They could not stop anyone, and they could not score in the half court. They could not score in transition. So first of all, I just want to say this, like when you go to cleaning the glass and you look at points per shot attempt, a decent measure of someone's offensive efficiency, there were only 5 players for the Charlotte Hornets that had an average or above average points per shot attempt relative to their position. Okay? Those players were Seth Curry, no longer with the team. He's a Golden State Warrior now. Mark Williams, no longer with the team. He's now a Phoenix Sun. Nick Richards, no longer with the team. Also a Phoenix Sun. Everybody's going out west. Wendell Moore Jr., not on the team anymore. Not sure where he is. And then the last one, Walker's favorite, probably yours too, mine too, spiritually, Moussa Diabate, who was not above average for points per shot attempt, but he was average at 119.2, average among bigs, and if you say, well, he's a little bit of a smaller big, maybe he should be ranked more in the forwards, then I think that number in terms of relative to his position, 50th percentile, he's probably a little bit even above average, Moussa Diabate. That's it. LaMelo Ball was in the 45th percentile. Grant Williams, 44. Josh Green, 44. Trey Mann, 44. Brandon Miller, 34. Yusuf Nurkic no longer on the team. Miles Bridges, 32nd in points per shot attempt relative to forwards. Nick Smith Jr., 18, no longer with the team. Tidjane Salaun, KJ Simpson, both 4th percentile and 6th percentile. KJ Simpson 6, Tidjane Salaun 4th. Ouchie. The good news is that Collin Sexton, their recent addition, was actually like in the 70th or 80th percentile offensively in terms of points per shot attempt. And so, like the story of the Hornets last season, a lot of that story was guys that were getting high usage just couldn't put the ball in the cup for a lot of different reasons. And so they struggled offensively and couldn't stop anyone. That's a good recipe for 19 wins. So now I've set the table. Back to my question, who is going to perform better and who's going to perform worse? I mean, I struggle to find anyone really that I wouldn't say, man, that guy could probably play a little bit better. Maybe Moussa Diabate, you could say, depending on what he tried to skill up. It seems like he was practicing his three-point shot a little bit, but I don't think anyone is going to be like surprised if he doesn't really take a single three. I think it's one of those things he's skilling up over time, maybe never comes. So, can he be effective enough in whatever minutes he gets, and has he skilled up a little bit toward, closer to the basket because he struggled there too. So, maybe there is a little bit of room for improvement, but you're looking so much on the defensive end of the floor there. And that's certainly there's a ton of room to improve for all of these guys defensively. So maybe Moussa does just contribute a little bit more on rebounding. Playmaking is a big area that he can improve in. Only 15th percentile in terms of assist percentage. That would be great. Like Moussa would be, even without the 3-point shot. Like if he can catch off the roll and send it cleanly to the corner for 3-point shots, for Trey Mann 3-point shots, like that makes him so much more effective if he's skilled up in that area. So there's the room for improvement. But LaMelo Ball, he's got to get more efficient. His assist percentage was great. His defense was not great. He was one of, like, if you just look at the range between how well someone performed offensively and how poorly someone performed defensively, I'm not sure you could find a player that was farther apart. I use XRAPM to make a lot of these kind of like, how good were they on offense? How good or bad were they on defense? And LaMelo Ball was towards the bottom of the league in defense. Specifically, he was 4th percentile in defensive impact. Okay, so that's bad. You're 4th percentile. There's only a few people between you and the very bottom. And funny enough, he's joined, right next to him is Collin Sexton, who was right on the border between 4th and 3rd percentile. And both of those guys really effective offensively. LaMelo, 98th percentile, meaning there were only a few players more impactful on the offensive end of the floor than LaMelo Ball. And then Collin Sexton, 90th percentile. So, will either of those guys, because maybe you wouldn't. I would take like 90th percentile LaMelo Ball offensively. Because look, to be an all-star in this league, you've got to be super effective at the offensive end of the floor. This league is about scoring. So you cannot have an 80th percentile offensive LaMelo Ball. He has to be super effective offensively. But wouldn't you take, instead of 98th percentile, wouldn't you take a 90th percentile LaMelo Ball if it meant that number on the defensive end of the floor went from 3rd or 4th percentile to like 20th percentile? Because then you're getting into like the Tyrese Maxey zone. You're getting into the a little bit better Tyler Hero zone. But, Tyler Hero's super effective player has been a super effective player on good teams. You have bigger dreams than Tyler Hero for LaMelo Ball. But defensively, it's just like, can he be a little bit more impactful? It's not about, I don't think he's going to be, to be all NBA and to be an MVP consideration, you have to be, a 90-60, 90-70, 90-80 kind of player. I don't know that he's ever going to get to that. But, just to improve to like the 20th or the 30th, again, that puts you into Tyrese Maxey territory. And that's something, at least defensively around the rest of the team, you can build around that kind of player. I think certainly the Philadelphia 76ers hope that they can do that with Tyrese Maxey. So as I look at the rest of the roster, Brandon Miller, I think there's all the world. I think he's going to improve. Like Trey Mann, with his role shifting to catch and shoot, I could see his efficiency getting better. Josh Green and Grant Williams are interesting because below average offensive efficiency, but they're both starting the year injured. So, and they didn't really get a clean summer. So I could see both of those, one or both of those guys taking a step back. And then down the rest of the roster, I mean, Tidjane Salaun, God, you hope he improves, right? I mean, 4th percentile points per shot attempts, a lot of mechanical stuff, a lot of skill level things, a lot of awareness things. Looked a little bit more comfortable in Summer League. There's some hope there, but you haven't heard a lot about Tidjane Salaun. A media day, training camp. It's not a lot of focus, not a lot of like getting out in front and saying, hey, Tidjane, big improvements, watch out. Coaches will like hype up certain guys. I just haven't heard a lot of that for Tidjane. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that they're trying to hide from that it's like the movie situation when a movie comes out and they're like, they didn't send any screeners out to the critics. You know what that means? It's a stinker. I hope that's not what it means, but certainly you got to have your eyes on Tidjane Salaun and what kind of improvements he's made, because if he hasn't made any improvements, if he can't crack the rotation, then you're starting to get into that, wow, they took a big swing at 6 in that draft, and it is not working out. It would be one of the first failures under this Jeff Peterson front office regime. So who gets better, who gets worse? I gave you a few better players, worse players. I think Grant Williams, Josh Green, guys to take a look at. Honestly, I think Collin Sexton can be a more effective player, have more impact on the Charlotte Hornets than he did the Utah Jazz, and his numbers actually take a step back. Because if you look across a lot of metrics on cleaning the glass, Collin Sexton had an amazing year, but there was just not a lot of clean air in front of him, right? I mean, a lot of room to be very good offensively and not be very good defensively. So that there again, I'm going to take, with him more so than LaMelo, I'd rather have a 70th percentile offensive Collin Sexton and get a 30th percentile defensive player where he is making some impact, particularly when it comes to turning over the ball, getting the Hornets into transition where they want to play with more pace. Okay, so I thought that, hey, there we go. Better, worse? Let me know what you think in the comments. Who do you think is going to play better? Who do you think is going to play worse this upcoming season? Coming up, I've got questions about, not questions about the preseason, questions that I want answered in this preseason. I'll run those down next, and then we'll wrap up the show by previewing Sunday's game, the first preseason game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's all coming up on Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by Monarch Money. Now, most people cannot name all of their financial accounts. I know I certainly can't, and I don't know what they're worth. That's not great. But whether it's 401k, properties, investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why I have Monarch Money. That's why my partner uses Monarch Money to help me out. And it's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together into one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you because it does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes. You can see clear data visuals. Line goes up. Get smart categorization of your spending and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. You can join the Sicko Brigade. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. Get a 14-day free trial, and you get access to the Sicko Satchel. You can put your question in there. We'll rummage around. We'll pull it out. We'll answer it on the air. Check that out. Join subtext.com/@Locked On Hornets. Okay, before I get to my questions that I want answered during the preseason, there was one player that I forgot to mention in that better, worse category, and that's Miles Bridges, who I found a really interesting stat on from David Lee on Twitter at DLee43, who put together some data via Cleaning the Glass on blue-collar NBA players, hard hat, lunch pail, glue guys, doing the hard stuff, ranked players by that metric, which was that metric that he came up with, the blue collarness metric, is a combination of looking at screen assists, deflections, loose balls recovered, charges drawn, box outs, and contested shots. So doing the extra stuff, doing the stuff that I'm sure that Charles Lee as a head coach is preaching to a lot of people. And in the top 35 here, my eyes only spy one player, and I've already spoiled it, from the Charlotte Hornets, and that is Miles Bridges, who last season averaged a little over half a screen assist per game, 1.4 deflections per game, loose balls, half a loose ball per game, charges drawn, not very many, box outs, 0.8, that's good, boxing out a lot of people, and then contested shots, I think that's the big one for Miles Bridges, 6.3 contested shots per game, ranking him 15th. And here are some of the players that he's ranked along with: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Jaden McDaniels, Cade Cunningham, Lauri Markkanen, Jamal Murray is in there. The Thompson twins are on this list. Dyson Daniels leads the list. OG Anunoby, Paul George, Josh Hart, Tumani Kamara, Keegan Murray. The Hornets need a lot more Miles Bridges type of players, particularly these kinds of contributions from their role players if they want to improve overall as a team. Like, obviously LaMelo has to stay healthy. Obviously Brandon Miller has to stay healthy, and both of those players have to become more offensively efficient, and Brandon Miller in particular has to become a better wing defender. Those are sort of the top line. These have to happen. But also I would throw into that category, you've got to have a few more role players like Miles Bridges who are willing to do the little things that help you win basketball games. As inefficient as he was offensively last year, and Miles Bridges took a step back in that category, maybe you could excuse that because he was having to do so many of these little things because no one else was doing them. No one else was healthy enough to do them or had enough skills, really, to do them last season. And that's why, again, you look at whether it's Dinwiddie, Connaughton, if both of those guys make it, Collin, Sexton, these are all guys that are like NBA veteran guys that if you ask them to do these things, they're going to be capable of it. Their willingness to do it is another question, but they're capable of doing it. They've done it for other teams. So Miles Bridges, he puts on the hard hat. That's why I'm not surprised that a lot of people within that locker room look at him and say, that's our senior leader. Because oftentimes we look at the leader as the guy that does a little bit of everything and does the little things that make it happen. And that's the guy, if he's preaching that, if he's the one saying that, it's good that he's doing it, right? So there is data to support that Miles Bridges has a lot of different little impacts on this team that have been positive, and maybe one of the reasons why the Charlotte Hornets have decided to stick with him through this contract and may stick with him all the way through the end of it, and hoping that him doing that will leak into the rest of the team. And so hopefully he has a better shooting year this upcoming season. Certainly the Hornets are hoping for that as well, because look, it's great to do the little things, but if you can't put the ball in the hoop, and he can do it by volume, but by efficiency, it was a little tougher for him last season. All right, some questions that I want answered during this preseason. I would say I would go to one of the guys that I mentioned. I don't know if I'm not really ranking these by order. I'm just kind of popping off on some of the questions that seem obvious to me that I want answered. And one of them is Tidjane Salaun. Like, I'm looking to see where they play him. Are they trying to play him in small ball center situations? Are they playing him as a 3? Are they playing him as a undersized 4, undersized 5, oversized 3? Like, what's his role? Does he have a role within this rotation? And I think particularly in these first couple of games, and without Josh Green and Grant Williams to fill out the rotation, I think he's going to get a shot to show what he's done. How effectively, how cleanly can he move the basketball, make quick decisions, and not turn the basketball over? Those are some questions that I think we'll get significant answers to by the end of the preseason. What does this guard rotation look like? Obviously LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, that's your 1-2. Where do you go from there? Is it Collin Sexton 2? Is it Brandon Miller 3? Where does Con Knipple factor in that? How much run is he going to get in this preseason and then moving on into the regular season? Liam McNeely, big question mark there, right? Because he looked so good at the beginning of that summer league and then injured almost immediately, which is, just very appropriate for the Charlotte Hornets, right? But looks 100% healthy now. So you have a big question there. Like, what does that look like? What is Liam McNeely's impact on the floor? And then we talked about it, basically the entire show, last episode, the center rotation. I don't know if Mason Plumlee has fully joined the team yet off of the personal issue that kept him out of media day. Do we see him at all against Oklahoma City? I think that's a question you could look at. But then they are really talking up Ryan Kalkbrenner, his ability to block shots, to roam around the paint. And I think, too, like coming off of that center question, which is, I think, an important question that may be answered via preseason. That may be something you have to experiment with in real life game action, because Charles Lee brought up this point, when you're in training, particularly by the end of training camp, everybody knows the play calls, so defenses can react more quickly to offenses because you know all of the plays. So to really judge someone's ability to read and react to an opposing offense, you've got to get them in these live situations in preseason. So we're going to see, what Musa can do, what Ryan Kalkbrenner can do. And if they stick with that, it sounds a lot like, drop coverage, junk, a little bit of zone where those two guys down low, if they're not up top guarding the screen, they're playing well off their man and hoping that, the rest of the guards can react to that. And, one guy take two guys up top and then let that, really cut off the paint using very like tight weak side help that's closer to the basket. Right. So, it'll be interesting to see, not only who they play and for how long at the center position, but exactly what their strategy is when it comes to guarding the rim and how that affects their pace of play. And that would be my final question that I want answered during preseason. How committed are they to playing fast, and does it fundamentally transform how they look? Like, I think if they are really serious about playing as fast as possible or at much faster than they did last season, then we'll come away from this preseason game and the preseason in general going, that team looks a lot different than the one last season, where they, as Charles Lee noted in his last media availability out of training camp, they would often take way too long. If they weren't already in transition, if they had to get into the half court, if a defense was able to get back, they just took way too long to get into sets, or if they weren't running a particular set, then just to get into whatever kind of, improvisational actions that they have set up where LaMelo Ball or whoever can sort of read and react to what the defense is giving them. They just took way too long. So it's both indecision, like who's going to do what, and it's also, maybe whoever's handling the basketball just wanting to probe things a little bit and taking too long to see what the defense is going to give them. And so, I guess, like, what would be the equivalent of a quarterback holding the ball too long and getting sacked in football? What's the equivalent of that in basketball? I don't think it's a player getting trapped and coughing up the basketball. I think it's actually just a player sitting on the ball too long. The defense is able to fully get back. And then it's like a coverage sack at that point, because if you give NBA defenses that much time, you're going to have, particularly if you don't have a player that's like Giannis, Jokic, Shea, James Harden, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, type of offensive player that's ISO that can just like, I'm going to break you down. There's not a lot your defense can do about it. LaMelo Ball can do that sometimes if his three-point shot's going and if his floater's going. And maybe there's a different LaMelo Ball this season, but the LaMelo Ball of the past has had a difficult time doing that if defense is stacked two against him and he's, running towards the paint. So unless you have that level of player, if the defense is able to really get set, you're going to have a much more difficult time scoring the basketball. So can they do that? That's a big preseason question as well. Let us know what questions you have in the comments on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnHornets. Coming up, I will preview tonight's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll tell you where to watch in person, and an exciting announcement about every Hornets box score. Stick around. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. We're locked in to we're in week 5? Are we in week 5 or week 6? No, we're in week 5, I think. Crazy. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I can build parlays, I can do player props, and even follow the live lines during the game. So if I'm smelling a comeback, then boom, I can lock it in. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, I left one guy off of my preseason questions. I thought it was just so obvious, I might not even mention it, but it's Collin, the 4th overall selection. And maybe the reason I left him off is because I feel pretty comfortable about what I think Collin can be in his rookie season just based on his performance in Summer League, where he did not win Summer League MVP. He won the championship game MVP, but the overall Summer League MVP went to Kyle Filipowski of the Utah Jazz. But Collin, just showed everything that you wanted to see from him in Summer League, which was and a bad first Summer League game, very similar to Brandon Miller, but recovered and had a great Summer League overall, just being somebody that could take players off the dribble. He could find guys open, whether he was driving towards the basket on his own or whipping it around the three-point line. He was somebody that was super effective in various points, and worked hard on the defensive end of the floor as well, and gave up his body a few times, and obviously he was head wound Harry there for a little while, but still wanted to play. I just had a desire to win that championship, that Summer League hardware for the Charlotte Hornets. So maybe that's why it's not a huge question. I guess the question would be, as he starts to ramp up and get more against NBA level talent, and people were surprised, Hornets players, including LaMelo Ball, were surprised by his athleticism. And look, you have to be athletic to play in the NBA and to even be drafted into the NBA. Scouts are good. There's no hiding it. You have to be athletic to play in the NBA. So there's no question that Collin is athletic. The issue is relative to what? Everybody in the NBA is athletic, but everybody, it's like when you go to when you're the top person in your high school, your smartest kid in your high school, and then you go to college, it's like, oh, I get it. Everyone here is super smart. That's why they're here. So now I have to level up again. And so that's, the big question for Collin is, can he either level up his own athleticism in these first couple of seasons, or can he be so effective at shooting the basketball, moving the basketball, scoring in a savvy way, drawing fouls, all the things that players do to overcome some slight that they have in their game or slight that they have in their athleticism. Can he do those things and make himself a super effective player as opposed to just an effective player? So that will certainly be something that I'm having my eyes on during this preseason. And it starts on Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time against the Oklahoma City Thunder. No better way to open your preseason than against the defending champions. And I mean that in all seriousness, because the reason the Oklahoma City Thunder won a championship was not only that they had the MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on their team, it's that if you go back to that hard hat, lunch pail, blue collar-ness stat that I was mentioning in the second segment, there are Thunder players littered all over that list, from the best players in Shai and Jalen and J-Dub, But I'm sure if you extended that out to top 50, top 100, like you're just going to see all of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Up and down that roster are guys that care about the little stuff, that do everything, level of competitiveness and drive and desire, the kind of stuff that we hear Charles Lee talk about a lot, and he wants to see manifested in these role players. And that's gonna take a team that was bottom of the league defensively and make them average. Like eventually you need really good defenders to become a really good defensive team. That sounds simple, and as I'm saying it, that sounds simple. But what I mean is you can have average and below average defenders, and if they're going at 100% or even more, then you can raise that level. Like, it's not a given that, okay, maybe I'm undersized at this position or multiple positions. That's gonna lower your ceiling, but you can still raise the floor. So I think it's good to measure yourself against Oklahoma City, who probably, if they play Shea and J-Dub at all, will probably play them in limited minutes just to get, you got to get people into game shape. That's what this preseason is all about, by the way. We're going to toss wins and losses, probably toss shooting percentages too, and really you're going to just kind of lock into what the effort level is as guys get into game shape. It's one thing to do training camp. You're coming off of a summer where maybe all these guys were super locked in. It seems like they were like, everybody was working out together. No one's questioned the commitment level of these players really at all. And so now it's just about getting yourself in to game shape. So this game will be against Oklahoma City Thunder. It's not being played in Charlotte, although technically I think it's a home game for the Hornets. No, they will be playing in North Charleston Coliseum. How about that? Why? Because the renovations at Spectrum Center still ongoing. It is not ready to house a preseason game, and it will not be through the rest of the preseason. They'll play 3 away games, and then they'll play 1 more home game at the Greensboro Coliseum. And I could be being tricked by the internet here, but I believe that game in the Coliseum, unless, okay, now I'm confused, and I'm not for sure if it's the Greensboro Coliseum or they were talking about this North Charleston game. I guess we'll see Sunday night. But one of them is sold out. So whether it's North Charleston or Greensboro, shout out. You guys want to see the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Charlotte Hornets. And yeah, that's great. Now, in terms of where you can watch this game, you can do it on the Hornets app. It looks like they're going to live stream it there. I'll put a link to the web address for the Charlotte Hornets. I sound 400 years old saying web address. https:// surfing on the internet. I'll put the link in there so you can check the website out where you can watch it. And then League Pass. If you have League Pass. Now here's the question, and this is always the question. Will League Pass allow you to watch the preseason game if you live in Charlotte, even though the game's not even being played in Charlotte? Please, I'm in Nashville. I'm not in Charlotte. It's going to let me watch the game on League Pass. If you have League Pass and you are in Charlotte, please report back if it's blacked out, because that would be the funniest, most NBA, most Adam Silver thing in the world. Just watch the highlights. It's a highlights league. Don't worry about it. You don't need to watch the whole game. Nobody watches the whole game anymore. Get out of here, Adam Silver. Yes, we do. We're sickos. We want to see game 1 of the preseason. A few of these preseason games will be broadcast by Bally, or whatever they're called now, Bankrupt Bally. They're going to be broadcasting a few of these games, 3 in total. So you'll get EC, who you're going to get, if you're a Panthers fan, you're going to get EC doing a Panthers game Sunday as well. But he won't be doing this. Obviously, he's doing the Panthers game. He will not be doing the Hornets game in North Charleston. You're going to get some kind of arena feed, probably maybe a radio call that they'll patch in to this first preseason game. So it might not look great, but hopefully the Hornets do. And they put up some competition. I looked up what the line was in this game in case you're a complete degenerate and want to do some preseason betting. They are only a 6-point dog against the preseason Thunder. So there you go. The Hornets, I expected them to be a double-digit dog, but they're giving the Hornets a fighting chance. The 19-win Charlotte Hornets, they're giving them a fighting chance in North Charleston. Enjoy the game. By the way, everyhornetsboxscore.com, I will be doing the first of, 5 plus 82 is 87. Maybe a play-in game, 88. Maybe the first of 88, which would be something, a number that's very significant to the Charlotte Hornets as they were founded in the year of 1988. I'll be doing 88 game recaps. We'll just mark it down now. Hornets getting a play-in game, at least 88 game recaps for every HornetsBoxScore.com. And Evan Hale of Super Hornets, and you see him all over social media. Evan is going to be helping me out this year on every Hornets box score, and he's actually going to be at the game in North Charleston, so he will be putting some notes into my game notes, reporting what the atmosphere was like in the arena, anything else he saw from his good seats, and I will be reporting from my living room couch. But every Hornets box score, go sign up. All of the preseason game notes are free. And so you get a little taste of what the game notes are. And then once we get into the regular season, then, you got to pony up because I have a baby. The baby doesn't eat for free. I checked. She won't. She will not eat for free. She, you got to pay for the food still. All right. Thanks for joining me here on Locked On Hornets. Walker and I will be recording an episode Sunday night right after the game ends with our thoughts. So it's just all over the place. You're going to have Hornets content for days and days now as we get some actual basketball to talk about. It's here. Yes, we did not finish who wore it best. We've got a couple of more days. We got weeks before the season actually tips off. So don't worry, we're going to get to it. We only have two numbers left, 0 and 1, which I think we're going to save 1 till the very end. All right, thanks for listening. For Walker, I'm Doug Branson saying go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte, and good luck against OKC.